Hello everyone, welcome to another video on the channel, and welcome to a video about something I kind of stumbled on a little bit by accident, and that is rolling starts that are very tight in proximity to each other, much tighter in proximity than what we currently have in sport mode. And I'm kind of going to ask the question, and hopefully you will be as well, as to why we don't use them in the game. Instead we use the current rolling starts that we've got at the moment, which I'm demonstrating here from this week's Daily Race C. It's Group 3 at Laguna Seca. By no means the worst rolling start in the game, but you can see as we scroll through the grid that the difference between first and last place is quite substantial, somewhere in the region of around about 14 to 15 seconds, which is quite a gap to be behind the leader if you're starting last, even before the race gets underway. This week's Daily Race B is Group 4 at Bathurst. Here we're just a flyover of the grid as the race gets underway. Even worse example, or even worse than the Laguna Seca one, there you can see quite substantial gaps between the cars, sometimes 4 or 5 car lengths between them. I've watched a few streams of this race. It's kind of boring, and a lot of that comes from the fact that the cars are so spread out from the rolling start, meaning that it's very hard for you to make any real progress without some kind of catastrophe up front, particularly in what is only a 3-lap race. So what I'm going to show you here is that it doesn't have to be that way. Within the game, coded within the game already, even before the last update, super tight rolling starts where the cars are in double file in much close proximity to each other is already within the game. Now you kind of have to trick the game a little bit in order to make it happen. That obviously would not be the case for PD, who could easily just change the code in an update and give us these much tighter rolling starts. The difference here in Daily Race B between what we're currently using and what you can see here on the screen is pretty dramatic, and personally I think would be a nice change within the game. Make the sort of races a lot closer in proximity to each other at the start of the race and give us that kind of magic and unpredictability. So how do we trick the game into sort of giving us these very tight rolling starts? Well, you can only really do it in custom race at the moment. So go into a custom race, and this is the important bit here. You must choose an oval at this point. The rest of the settings that you're going to look at here don't really matter except for the start type. Obviously it has to be set to rolling start. You can change the rolling start interval from around about 80 feet to 160 feet. It doesn't really matter what you've got that set at, it's not going to make too much of a difference. For this example though, we're going to put it down to the absolute lowest, or the closest that we can get them. I think that's 82 feet that it says there. I do sort of filter through the rest of the settings here because I was just setting up a race just to sort of test a few other things. But on this screen here, the two important things are choose a oval as your racetrack and make sure you've got the rolling starts activated and not a grid start. So with that set up, let's head to Special Route X, which is the oval track that we have chosen. And as we go into the race, you're going to see we're in a nice double file, fairly close proximity rolling start. Now what seems to happen here is that there seems to be two different types of rolling starts coded into the game, one for ovals and one for racetracks. So if you set the race up on an oval and then go up into the top top left hand corner and then choose a racetrack, in this example we're going to choose a Sardinia Road Track A. Once we load in there, for some reason the game doesn't revert back to the single file rolling starts, it keeps the oval double file rolling starts even on a racetrack. So now we're loaded into this race here, we'll just check what we've got, what we need on our Ferrari. Into the race we're going to go, and you can see on a racetrack we now have the double file rolling starts. And this makes a big difference to how close the back of the pack is to the front, as I'm going to demonstrate here in just a little bit of a second. You can see up front we've dropped off the back of the grid here a little bit, unfortunately, but you can see the double file all in a nice big pack up front, and as we cross that line there we're only 7 seconds off the leader, even though we are in the last place. As we come up into the first big braking zone, that gap comes down to around about 6.5 seconds, and so that's quite important. Even though we're starting so far back in the grid, we've got lots of cars around us, we can kind of capitalise on some shenanigans going on, and we're not a million miles off the lead even as the race starts. Now if you don't go from an oval setting into this race and just go set the race up as exactly as we had, but just go straight into Sardinia Road Track A, and you will get the rolling start like this. So you can see we're in a single file, and as we cross the line you're going to see there's quite a dramatic difference in the gap between first and last place, whereas with the double file rolling start it was about 7 seconds, it's now 13 seconds, so nearly a doubling of the gap between first and last place. And if this happens to be set in a daily race A or B, then 13 seconds behind the leader, and you're probably then 7 or 8 seconds behind even the top 10. It makes it very hard to make any real progress, and I guess in a lot of ways maybe brings out a little bit of desperation into some people's driving. So it does beg the question to me why we're not using these much better rolling start sequences compared to what we're currently using in sport mode when they're clearly within the game. Probably wouldn't take a whole lot of work to kind of change the code and a little bit of an update so we're using them in sport mode. And initially my kind of answer to that was they simply don't trust us to be in close such proximity to each other in turn number 1 and not have absolute chaos all the time. And let's be honest, it would bring a certain element of chaos to the start of the races. But we also, in the past, we've had like Super Formula races and Group 2 races with grid starts at the A1 ring and Spa. So it can't really be the fact they don't trust us, because you're going to get even more carnage than this in a grid start. So I'm really not sure of what the reason is. Maybe somebody out there can maybe come up with something. I certainly can't think of any real reason why this can't be added into the game, or not even added into the game because it's already in the game, but why sport mode can't be changed to incorporate these much better rolling starts, not just in terms of how they look, but also in terms of the racing. Personally, I do feel that if the rolling starts to be more like this, that we kind of just bring a little bit of magic to the opening lap, a little bit of unpredictability, a little bit of potential for chaos, which, chaos is not always a bad thing. But in real life, let's be honest, most people watch real motorsport. The opening lap's probably the most exciting part of the race. Everybody likes to sort of tune in, catch the start of the race, see what happens, see if there's going to be any bumps, grazes, crashes, kind of shenanigans drivers get up to, and we kind of lose that element of motor racing in GT sport at the moment because the rolling starts are so drawn out. So let me know what you think in the comments section of this video. Is this kind of came as a little bit of a surprise to you? Did you have any idea that this kind of rolling start sequence was in the game? Would you like to see it added to sport mode, or do you think the chaos would be just too much for a lot of drivers and races? Do let me know in the comments what you think. I'll just leave you with some next sequences of these rolling starts playing out. The one at the end of Lago Maggiore looks particularly fantastic in my opinion. So with that said, enjoy the footage. Please do hit that like button, please do hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and thank you very much for watching. Goodbye now.